ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਗੁਰੂ ਰੂਪ ਗੁਰੂ ਪਿਆਰੀ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. So Maharaj has blessed us with the opportunity to do satsangat, to enter the true congregation so that we can sing the praises of the Lord and meditate upon the Lord, as we were doing with the techniques of Sas Gras Simran, Sas Sas Simran. What we're practicing when we're doing Simran, when we're doing Sangat, is called Nirmalakaram. It's those actions that purify our mind, that cleanse our mind of filth, of mal. The filth that's on our mind is our thoughts, our anxieties, our worries that we have. That filth has accumulated over many lives that we've led. Maharaj tells us in Gurbani, Janam Janam ki is man ko mal lagi, kala ho asya, that this mind has been absolutely polluted by filth, and that filth is from all the different lives we've led through, whether it be human form or other forms that we have been in. Because this mind, until it merges into truth, meets the divine, it has to go through different physical forms. And the only opportunity we get to meet the divine is through the human form. Once we have that great fortune that God blesses us with, that we've been able to enter the human form as we are now, this is our best opportunity to meet Vaheguru, to merge into the divine, so that we can be liberated from the life-death cycle, from Janam Marana Ged, from the reincarnation cycle. Now, Maharaj tells us in Gurbani, Kot Tirath Majan Isnana is kalme mail parijai, Sad sang jo hargun gave, so nirmal kar lijai. That if we bathe at sacred places, for instance, you may have seen in India, many people go to holy rivers, holy sites, holy sarovars to bathe. And Maharaj tells us in Gurbani that in the dark age, known as Kal Yuga, that people will do karma like that. They'll do actions which are religious actions. They'll do this cleansing of themselves at these sacred locations. But Maharaj says that that only cleanses the body, and the filth upon the mind remains, and instead of cleaning the mind, they end up getting more filth upon the mind. Kot Tirath Majan Isnana is kalme mail parijai, Sad sang jo hargun gave, so nirmal kar lijai. When we enter Sad Sangat, when we enter the Sangat of saints, then our mind becomes nirmal. It becomes cleansed. It becomes clean. When we enter Sad Sangat and sing the praises of the Lord, and our mind starts to get rid of that filth upon it. So today's topic is basically about karma, action. Karma, defined directly, is action. Whatever actions we perform, they're known as karma. Some people pronounce it as karma. And as we've discussed before, whatever actions we commit have a reaction, have a consequence, whether it be good or bad, whether it be painful or not for us. And that's called the law of karma. Whatever goes around comes around. Now Maharaj in Gurbani tells us that our kapda that we're wearing, the cloth that we're wearing, and that doesn't mean the clothes, that means this physical body that we get, that we get it upon what type of karma we've done. Maharaj says, Karmi ava kapda nadri mukh dwar. That our past actions determine what type of cloth this mind gets to wear. Whether we're going to be in a human body, or whether we're going to be a plant somewhere, or going to be flying around as a bird, or some other animal, or whatever species we have to enter. That's determined by our own karma, by what actions we do. And then Maharaj says, Nadri mukh dwar. Nadri actually means sight. So that's further translated into the grace of God. If they put their good sight on us, then we get liberated. And to note, along with that, if we place our sight upon God, if we look at Waheguruji, that is also a way of getting liberated, because we are here to meet the Lord. And Maharaj says, Nadri Satguru Seviye, Nadri Seva Hoye, Nadri Eman Vas Ave, Nadri Man Nirmal Hoye. That with the sight, we do seva of Satguru, the true Guru, by looking at Waheguruji. Satguru is used for Guru Granth Sahib Ji as well, and for Waheguruji. Here Guru Sahib is talking about looking at Waheguruji. When we see Prakash, when we see the light of God, and we're actually doing seva by looking at Satguru. Nadri Satguru Seviye, Nadri Seva Hoye. We're doing seva, service, by looking at Satguru. Nadri Satguru Seviye, Nadri Seva Hoye, Nadri Eman Vas Ave, Nadri Man Nirmal Hoye. And by looking, our mind comes into control. Our mind becomes pure. Our mind gets cleansed of filth. So even that, us seeing Waheguruji, is with the grace of God. So we perform actions. The actions that we perform in this world are going to determine what happens in the future. And that's quite understandable. So that's something that we've mentioned before, that whatever actions we commit in this life, because this Maya, this area of Maya is a dream, our subsequent dreams that we're going to have to enter are going to be determined by the actions that we do now. So because of our actions, either we are far away from Waheguruji, or we are very near. So it depends on what actions, what karma we are doing. Maharaj tells us in Gurbani, Changiyaiyan buriyaiyan, vache tarm hadur, karmi apo apani ke neda ke dur. That the good and bad is going to be looked at by the righteous judge. The righteous judge is the Dharma Raja. Karmi apo apni ke neda ke dur. And because of our actions, we are either near or far from the Lord. And our actions, what this mind does while in this physical plane, is going to be discussed in the court of such, the truth, in the court of the Lord. Maharaj tells us in Gurbani that karmi karmi hoye vichar, sacha aap, sacha darbar. That our actions are going to be discussed. They're going to be looked at in the court of the Lord. So Maharaj is making it clear that our actions are very important as to what we do with our mind while our mind is in this physical plane. Now the mind has been connected to the physical body just to perform action. Maharaj says, Eman karma, eman tarma, eman panch tatte janma. That this mind does the practice of karma. This mind does the practice of dharma as well. Iman panch tat te janma, that this mind is born from the 5 elements. Now, the 5 elements that Maharaj speaks of here aren't the elements of Maya. The mind itself is the form of light. ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਨ ਤੂੰ ਜੋਤ ਸਰੂਪ ਹੈ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੂਲ ਪਛਾਣ. Hey mind, you are the form of light. Recognize your root. Our root, our origin is Waheguru Ji. Waheguru Ji is also in the form of light. The Panch Tat, Maharaj just mentions 5 elements. These 5 elements come out of Sun. Sun is another word for God as well. Where our mind becomes thoughtless, we go into Sun, that area. These 5 elements were produced from Sun. Maharaj says in Gurbani, Panch Tat Suno Pragasa De Sanjogi Karma Abhyasa, that the 5 elements from which this mind is born come from Sun. So they're Prakash Roop, the form of light as well. So these 5 elements that Maharaj is talking about that produced the mind, that gave birth to the mind, the 5 elements, they are actually the form of light as well. They are not a part of Maya. De Sanjogi Karma Vyasa. Sanjog means to connect, Vijog means to separate. De is our physical body. Maharaj says De Sanjogi Karma Vyasa. So the mind, which is born from the 5 elements, has been connected to this physical body, which has the 5 elements of Maya, which is composed of the 5 elements of Maya, so that the mind, once it connects with the body, can practice karma. Karma abhyasa. Abhyasa means to practice. This mind practices karma through this physical body. Now, the karma that we do either brings us near or takes us far away from the Lord. Maharaj tells us, Kirat karma ke vichade, kar kirpa melo ram, that our mind has been separated from the Lord through the actions that we commit, through the work that we do in this world. Whether someone is a manmukh, a gurumukh, everyone has to come into the Triguna as long as they are connected to a physical body, and they come to Rajoguna. The Rajoguna is where our mind has those thoughts and feelings that have to do with arthachara, artha, another word for economics. So Rajoguna specifically includes goals that we have for immediate future or far future, and anything that has to do with sustaining our physical bodies here, sustaining our families here, so that we can provide sustenance to our physical bodies, to our families, for survival on earth. Whether it's we work, we go to school, that all has to do with the Rajogun. Everyone, whether they're Gurmukh or Manmukh, they have to come to Rajogun to sustain themselves within this world. Maharaj in Gurbani tells us that when we're in Triguna, the karma that we do within the Triguna brings filth upon our mind. Maharaj says, Trebit Karma Kamaye As Andesa Hoye, that when we're within the Triguna, whether it's the Rajoguna, Satoguna, which is like positive qualities, Daya Nimrita Shanshilta Jat Sat Santok, compassion, humbleness, all the positive qualities. And then there's Tamoguna, the negative qualities, lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, and ego. Whatever karma we do where we're within the Triguna, that's called Trebit Karma. Whatever actions we commit while our mind is within the Triguna, it's going to cause anxiety and worry in our mind. We're obviously going to have hopes and wants within the Triguna, within Maya. and hence that anxiety and stress that we get as well along with it. So what we do within the Triguna causes filth upon our mind. And now, to get closer to Vaheguruji, we have to go upon the path of love, also known as live in Gurbani, and install within us those positive qualities: compassion, humility, daya, namrata, shanshilta, patience, jata sat, commitment, truth, santokh, contentment. When we are doing physical actions within this world, when we're doing any karma, whether we're at satoguna, say we're doing seva, we are helping the needy, we are serving people, we're doing charity, we're actually giving donations for the poor, that's called satoguna. Those are actions that would consist of satoguna, where you have compassion, humility within yourself. That path does lead to going to Vaheguru as long as we do meditation on top of that. Because meditation, Nam Simran, brings us above the Triguna, where Vaheguruji himself sits watching this entire play. Above the Triguna, in the fourth dimension, Chautha Pad. Now, how does doing karma, action at satoguna, still make our mind have filth? The reason is that as long as we're in this body, we have this sense of I, called the ego. Maharaj calls that ego Home in Gurbani. Home is also another word for ahankar. Home is more sukham sometimes for us, that we don't realize it, that it's there. For instance, if someone does seva, someone does charity, someone does charitable work, there is that sense that gets left in the mind that I did this. So and so time, I was at this place and I did seva at the Gurdwara. I did service for the poor. I did service for people at the Gurdwara. I did service for poor people at a shelter. Or I donated to people. That I is known as Home. Home, Hankar, is actually a portion of Tamoguna. When we do good work within this world, that's something that's a part of our duty. We're not here to do bad, obviously. We are here to do good. So just for doing good, we can't ask for liberation in return, because that's what our responsibility is anyways. So that filth of ego, however subtle it may be, it still comes upon our mind. And because that home, that I, comes upon our mind, that acts as a wall between us and the Lord if we do not get rid of that home. And to get rid of that home, we have to rise above the Triguna. We have to do Simran. That's why Bhai Gurdas Ji says, Vaheguru Gurmantar hai japa home khoi. That when you chant the Gurmantar, the home, the ego, goes away. Until we get rid of that ego that's within us, and we have that feeling that I have actually done something within the world. I have done this. I am this. That I-ness that we have in us, that ego, we have to come over and over into the Janma Maran Ged, into the reincarnation cycle. Maharaj says, Home ei bandhana fir jo nahi paaye. We are supposed to get rid of our ego so that we can merge into the divine and realize the divine, the truth. And when we think that we've committed action, whatever action we do within this world, where we have that ego, whether it's charitable work, whether it's doing seva, whether it's feeding the poor, doing any charitable work. Maharaj says, Jab e jane main kich karta, tab lag garb jon mein firta. That when the mind thinks that it's done this and that, it has that I-ness, that ego within it. Tab lag garb jon mein firta. And because of that, we have to come over and over again into the womb. We have to be reborn again in either this human form or other physical forms. So Maharaj guides us in Gurbani to do Nirmalakaram, to try to do those karam that purify our mind. We purify our mind, we take away that filth upon our mind when we do Nam Simran, when we do Sangat, when we sing the praises of the Lord, when we discuss Gurbani, do Shabd Di Vichar. That's called Nirmalakaram. Maharaj says that any other karma that we do, even if it's dharmak, we think it's religious, that's only within the Triguna and doesn't take us above the Triguna, that will be plundered by the messengers of death. Karma dharma pakhand jo dise, tin jam jagati lutay. Then what should we do? Maharaj then tells us to sing the praises of the Lord, by which our mind gets purified. And if we contemplate the Lord in meditation, or we focus in on the Lord, even for an instant, that saves our mind. Nirban kirtan gavo karte ka, nimak simrit jit shutay. So Maharaj guides us to do Nirmalakaram. Maharaj tells us, Man tan tove sabd vichari. That when we do Shabdi Vichar, when we're discussing Gurbani, when we're talking about what Maharaj teaches us, our mind and the mind's body get cleansed. When we connect with Nam, then we're at the true pilgrimage. We're at that Tirath, where we can bathe our mind. Tirath naavan jao, Tirath naam hai. That if you want to bathe your mind, bathe by connecting the mind with the Nam. That's the Tirath. That's the sacred shrine. That's the pilgrimage. That's the sacred body of water where you want to bathe your mind. And then Maharaj says, Tirath sabd bichar antar gyan hai. That spiritual wisdom and the vichar of the Shabd, that is a Tirath. Having that gyan inside you means that cleansing is inside you, that place of cleansing is inside you. Gur gyan sacha than Tirath das purb sada dasahara. That Dasara is 10 festivals that are sacred festivals that are observed. And Maharaj says that the Gyan of the Guru, the knowledge given to us by the Guru, is the Tirath, is where our mind can go for pilgrimage. And that is where those 10 festivals that are counted as being sacred in Maya are actually the ones where our mind gets cleansed within. So what happens is that people get together for 10 different festivals in India that are religious festivals, and they go to these religious places to cleanse themselves at the religious shrines. But Maharaj tells us that all those 10 festivals, those places of pilgrimage, are inside us when we connect with Guru's Shabd, when we get the knowledge of the divine from Gurbani, and all that Tirath is inside. That's why this entire focus of ours should be in searching our own selves, self-realization, searching this physical body. A Gurmukh is one that searches inside themselves, inside their physical body. Maharaj says, Gurmukh hove so kaya khoje hor sab param palai. That everything outside that we're doing, all the actions that we're doing, we're in param, we're in disillusion. We get lost. Our mind does. And when we're connecting with Vaheguruji, when we're connecting with the Naam, our mind finds its way out of the Trigun, because the Naam is above the Trigun. And when we connect with Naam, we find our path to Vaheguruji by just merging into Naam and then being Sanmukh in front of Vaheguruji, seeing Vaheguruji. So that is just a little bit about karma today. So our karma do matter. How much do they matter? Maharaj says that everything we do, what we eat, what we're watching, everything that we do is going to be accounted for. Maharaj says that our swas, they're going to be accounted for as well. Maharaj says, Lekha bolan bolana, lekha khana khao. That what we speak, that's going to have to be given account for. We are going to have to account for what we've spoken in this world. Lekha bolan bolana, lekha khana khao. What we eat is going to have to be accounted for in Dargah, in the court of the Lord. Lekha vaat chalaiya, lekha sun vikhao. What path we have chosen in life, whether we chose the path of love or whether we went on the path of tat, that's going to have to be accounted for. What we've heard and what we've seen, that's going to have to be accounted for. Where did we focus in? Were we listening to gossip? Were we listening to slander? Were we watching what we shouldn't watch? That all has an account that we have to give for in Dargah. And then Maharaj tells us that Lekha saal lawaiye, pade ke puchhne jao. That you don't have to ask the scholarly or the pade likhe. You're going to have to give account for your swas as well. Where did the mind spend its swas? Our mind spends swas when we have thoughts, whether we go to Rajogun, Tamogun, or Satogun. Our mind has to account for that as well in Dargah. Our mind only saves swas when it goes above the Trigun. Our swas, our air that we breathe, the breaths of air are called swas in Gurbani. Swas is the currency by which the mind can get any commodity from any of these shops in Trigun. Whether we go to Tamogun, we're using our swas at that time to get lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, and ego. Where we're going to Rajogun, we're discussing or thinking about our school, work, and whatnot. Our mind is spending its swas at Rajogun. Where we're thinking of or we're having these positive qualities inside us, Daya, Namrata, Shanshilta, compassion, humility, humbleness, contentment. Positive qualities, our mind is actually spending swas there. It's still along the path to meet God, Satogun is, but it's still within Trigun. Our mind only saves its swas when it enters the fourth dimension, when it goes above the Trigun, where it's no longer in expenditure. It's not spending its swas. It's actually saving its swas. That's why when we do Simran Avyas, when we're connecting with the divine, we're saving our swas, and these swas are being deposited in Nirgun Da Khazana. Nirgun is the formless Lord, formless Vaheguruji, and we are actually depositing our swas in Vaheguruji's bank. When Vaheguruji sees that we've deposited enough swas, Vaheguruji blesses us with Naam inside. Then we get that experience of Naam inside. That's why it's important that we save our swas as much as we can. When we're working within the world, it's hard to meditate at the same time, but if we learn to meditate on the Guru Mantra, Guru, internally, or by speaking while we're doing work, then we start to save at least half our swas at that time. When we're doing Simran as well, where we have a thought, that ear, if we've just taken one breath and we said Guru, within that one breath, the portion where we had a thought gets accounted for as being a part of Satoguna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna, and the portion where we did not have any thought is actually saved. So that's how barik, fine, this account goes for. And based off of that, in Dargah, if we've spent most of our swas in the Triguna, depending on where it is, if it's a Rajoguna, most likely we are given the next Janam in the Pumlok. We can get turned into a flower for our next role that we're going to play with in this world, a rock, or some other animal that's living on the earth or within the earth. If we spent our swas on Tamogun, the majority of our swas of our life, then we go to Patal Lok. Patal Lok is where we go underwater, and we get different forms there that we can be a part of, a fish or seahorse or something like that. If we've spent most of our swas at Satogun, which is positive qualities, but this is noting that when we're within these three, we're not doing Simran, and we haven't tried to actually do Simran. Then if we've spent all majority of our swas at Satogun, then they'll release us into the sky, because the sky is connected to Satogun. It's called Akashlok, and we can become some bird somewhere and fly around. We won't need a visa anymore. We can go into any territory we want just by flying. But the thing is that, like, anyone that practically thinks about it, they wouldn't want that. They'd rather have a human form again. Human form is special in the sense that if you've done bhakti, if you've saved a lot of swas, if you've done sangat, that helps our mind save swas. And if we've been saving swas, if we've been trying to get out of the Trigun, then Maharaj looks at that, and by their grace, they can then bless us another human form to go into, and then we get the chance to continue our bhakti, our devotion, our meditation from there. So that's why it's important we look at what we're doing within this world. And what makes it hard is because our mind is the one that's going to give account, not our physical body. But it's the mind that's the king of this body. And whatever actions we do within this body, or we perform with this physical body, they have to be accounted for. So when people have thoughts, these thoughts are mainly produced by Kam, Krodh, Loma, Ahankar inside, lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, and ego. Because of our attachment to Maya. Maharaj says, Panchadut Chitve Vikara Maya Moka Epasara. That the five thieves inside, they produce thoughts within the mind. Because the mind has fallen asleep within the Trigun. And the mind has attached itself to Maya. That's the fault of the mind. Now Maharaj then tells us, if they bring about a thought, it's up to the mind. Now, you'll notice that some people, when they sleep, they're very light sleepers. Mada ja koi khadak hunda, they wake up. They hear just a little bit of a sound and they suddenly wake up. And then there's some people that are deeply asleep that you can make any noise, they won't wake up. Similarly, our mind is asleep in Maya. We are watching life as a dream. And the more asleep we are, the more we're in the entanglements of lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, and ego. And we have no awareness of ourselves. If we start doing meditation, our sleep becomes lighter from the side of Maya. Maharaj says, Simar Simar, Simar Guru Apna Soya Man Jagai. That by doing Simran, by doing meditation, this mind of ours that is asleep in Maya is awakened. And it fully awakens when we hear Naam inside. Tono Pajay Sabad Jagaya. So the line between being asleep and being awake is very fine. If we're connected to Naam, we are fully awake. If we are not, we are still asleep in Maya. The lighter your sleep is, the more you realize your true self, and the more you are aware of lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, and ego. So Maharaj then tells us in Gurbani that if a thought comes into our mind, make it so that we stop it there and it doesn't reach our physical bodies, so that we don't act upon that thought. Maharaj tells us in Gurbani that Jeda mane hai sada, our mind, it has to stop the thought at that process where it's still within the mind, so that it doesn't reach our five senses. It doesn't reach our physical body, so we don't act upon the thought. Maharaj tells us, Eman jaisa seve taisa hove tehe karm kamaye. That whoever you serve, your mind starts to attach itself to that being. And then those are the type of karma you do. If our mind serves Maya, Maya is known as a dasi. She is a servant of God. And if we're constantly stuck within Trigun, Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun, our mind becomes Maya Tari. And then we can't hear the Shabd inside. Maya Tari, At Anna Bola. We can't see God with our eyes. We can't hear God with our ears. At Anna Bola, Sabdana Suni Bohrol Kachola. That we don't hear the Shabd inside. And instead there's all this noise inside, and that noise is of those thoughts created by the five. Now, Maharaj tells us that we have to make sure that if a thought comes, we destroy that thought or stop that thought at the level of the mind, so it doesn't reach our Gyanindra, our five senses, our physical body. That's why Maharaj says in Gurbani, Man ki basna manate tare. That we stop our thought at the level of the mind. Gur Prasad Bhikhya par hare man ki basna manate tare. That with the Guru's grace, we renounce corruption, we rise above zahar, poison. Man ki basna manate tare. And the thoughts, desires that we have that are from the five, lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, and ego, we stop at the level of the mind. We don't let it reach our Gyanindriya, our five senses, our physical body. That's why Maharaj then says, Man ke bekar mane taje man chuke mo abhiman. Atam Ram Pashanya Seje Nam Saman. That the one that eliminates thoughts, Bikar actually is like thoughts that are wicked thoughts produced by lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, and ego. And we get rid of that attachment inside, we get rid of the home inside. We come to recognize the soul, Paramatma, the Supreme Soul. And then very easily we'll start to absorb into Nam. Man ke bekar mane taje man chuke mo abhiman, Atam Ram Pashanya Seje Nam Saman. So Maharaj in Gurbani tells us that these 5 thieves, they are going to bring about thoughts because we've attached ourselves to Maya. Our job is not to follow those thoughts. Our job is not to act upon those thoughts. Our job is to try to stay connected to Naam all the time. Naam is hukam. ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਮਾਰੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਏਕੋ ਨਾਮ ਹੁਕਮ ਹੈ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਦੀਆ ਬਜਾਏ ਜਿਉ. The Naam is hukum, it's the command of the Lord, and we are to stay within that command. When a Gurmukh comes into the Trigun, if they're a true Gurmukh, fully awake all the time, then they'll be connected to Naam all the time. And then whatever karma they'll do will always be along the path of the path of love, and Kam, Krodh, Loma, Ahankar will be within their control. A Manmukh, on the other hand, does karma, and they're disconnected from Naam. So what happens with a Manmukh is they get punished for the karma that they commit in Dargah. Manmukh karm kamavane dargah mile sajai. That they get punishment for their karma that they've committed. They were not within the command of the Lord, and they were entangled in Kam, Krodh, Loma, Ahankar. They were being controlled by Kam, Krodh, Loma, Ahankar. That's why Maharaj tells us that all these karma that we do within this world, all the action that we do, if we do not follow Gurmat, then later on we have to face the punishments. Now Maharaj says, Paire Gurmukh bujhe koe, bin bujhe karam kamavne janam padarat koe. That the Gurmukhs are the ones that realize the truth. They understand the real path. And without this divine understanding, we lose this human life because we do karma within the Trigun. Then Maharaj tells us in Gurbani ke Bobid karam kamavde duni man lagi aaye padya mail na utre pucho gyani a jaye. That we do all types of actions within the Trigun. All those actions that we do, whether it's on Satogun, Rajogun, Tamogun, they start to bring filth upon our mind. And then just by studying, just by reading, we can't have that filth come off. Maharaj says you can ask true Gyanis, the ones with divine knowledge, the real wise ones, the true wise ones, they'll tell you the same. The wise ones, the actual true Gyanis, they contemplate the Lord. They connect with Naam. So Naam, doing Sangat, connecting with Naam, doing Simran, that's Nirmalakaram. That makes our mind pure. So Maharaj has told us over and over again that we have to try to bring our mind above the Trigun. We have some questions. I'll go to the question that I got on WhatsApp first. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I wanted to know if in Sikhi we have levels of spirituality like in the attached image, and why some people openly say they are Sadhguru but Sikhs don't. I was going to ask on the live, but I can't send the image. Okay, so they have another question after that. So Gurmukh from England has sent me an image where it's being stated that first someone is curious, then they're a seeker, then they become disciple, then they become a saint or a guru, then a sadguru, and then Parat Guru. Okay, and that's compared to being in primary school, secondary degree, master's, doctorate, and postdoctorate. Okay, so in Gurbani, we have levels of padai. We all, regardless of what faith we prescribe to, we all come into this world as seekers. Sikh means student. We are all seeking the truth. We're all trying to search for the truth, for that peace which comes from the truth, because we came from there and we need to reach that place of peace again. Our mind is actually searching for that peace, searching for the truth when we come into this world. But not knowing the path Some people try to search for that peace within Maya. Some people think forms of entertainment will give them that peace. But that temporary peace that we get in Maya just brings more filth upon our mind. For instance, if our mind watches TV for half an hour or whatnot, it might be thoughtless for that moment because it's so engaged within the TV. But that same karma, because it's within the Trigun, after produces thoughts. It produces filth upon our mind. So, as the image that you have sent, they've started as primary being curious. Guru Sahib actually starts us off as all being seekers, which is what they've stated as secondary in this image. I'm not able to put that image up on YouTube, so I'm just going to describe it as I speak here. So then the next level above that is being a disciple. Okay, so we are all Sikhyarthi, according to Gurmat, when we come into this world. We are all Sikhs, students. We're searching for the truth. We are all seekers. That's where Maharaj starts us from. You become a Guru Sikh when you enter the shelter, the home of the Guru, Satguru, true teacher. And you become a disciple of the Guru. Guru Satguru ka jo Sikh khai so palke uthar naam te aave. You start following the path laid out by the Guru, laid out by the Bhagats. And doing so then brings us to different levels of spirituality, where our mind, once it attaches to Naam inside, meets the Lord, then the mind can sit at different levels. Once it's met the Lord and it starts to sit on Anahad Shabds, starts to remain in the place where Anahad Shabds play, that mind is known as a saint, a sant. Jinu Maharaj kende teh geet naad akhare sanga uha sant kare haranga. That the saints sit where celestial music plays. Once the mind meets the divine, if it wants to sit above the celestial music, where Unman is, then it's known as a Bhagat. Sukh mail janke uch dware tame base Bhagat pyare. If the mind meets God and wants to just sit within the Prakash all the time, that mind is known as a Brahmgyani. It's always within Sach. Sach is Vaheguruji. Vaheguruji is the truth. They're known as Sach. And whoever so sits within that light of Vaheguruji, light of God, that mind is known as a Brahmgyani. Man sacha mukh sacha soy avarna pek hai ekas bin koe nanak e lachan Brahmgyani hoye. If you hear the Sahajaton inside, you've met the Lord, and then you want to sit where the Sahajaton is, then the mind will be known as a sadhu. Jinu Maharaj kende hai, Sant, Sukh, Sahajaton upaji, sadhu sang nivasa jiyo. There the mind is known as a sadhu. Here they talk about becoming a saint, and they're saying the saint and the guru are the same. Actually, those are two different roles. Gurbani clearly states saints, Brahmgyanis, sadhus, bhagats, as to what stage the mind sits at. Sometimes those terms, those words, Sant, sadhu, Gurmukh, they're used interchangeably in Gurbani as well. But the shabds that clarify where the mind is actually sitting and what official title has been given to the mind is also clearly defined within Gurbani. The Guru and the Sikh become one. When the Sikh connects with the Upadesh of the Guru, then there's no difference between them and Guru. Maharaj says, Guru Sikh, Sikh Guru hai, Ekko Guru Upadesh lai. Ram Naam Mant Hirday Deve Nanak Milan Sabai. That when the Sikh connects with the Guru's Upadesh, and when they have Ram Naam enshrined within themselves, that mind becomes one with the Guru. Now, the mind in Gurmat can never go outside of the Maryada, that's the routine that's been tied down by our Satguru, Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji. They've made sure that the mind can only perform the duties of a guru when the mind is serving within the Panj Pyare, who are Guru Roop. And then in Gurbani, Maharaj tells us that the Guru and Satguru are one. So when the mind comes to that level, they become one with Satguru as well inside. But Maharaj, Guru Gobind Singh Ji has made that maryada that Satguru Shabd is only to be used for Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji or Vaheguru Ji. So here, the different stages that you've sent in the image, where Saint Guru and Sadguru and Bharat Guru, that's someone's own understanding, and that's not actually equivalent to what Gurbani and the Bhagats have taught us. Guru Gobind Singh Ji made sure that everything is done within a maryada, so that no one is going about creating their own panths, as a lot of fake people do. A lot of these saints that are in Kaljug, a lot of them are stuck within the Gandharv Nagari, which is an illusion. And they teach people how to do meditation, but they themselves are stuck within the Gandharv Nagari, and only a person that actually knows about what Gandharv Nagari is would be able to recognize that. Or if you've done Sangati, you'd be able to recognize that. The second question is, why does God give our children physical sickness which distracts us from Simran? How to stop the worrying? Okay, so on this path, Kal is always going to try to give some sort of obstacles in your path. When we're meditating, the first obstacle usually is sickness. Either a person gets sick or another person within the family gets sick and you worry. And that takes away from your Simran time. If you keep doing Simran as you attend to your responsibilities as well, you overcome that obstacle. The next obstacle that Kal will place in front of you as you go on this path, and this is for anyone that goes on this path, that is Arthik Taur di Kamjori, that becoming tight for money, not being able to pay bills and stuff. If a person gives up Simran because of any of these obstacles, then Kal has won them over. Once a person keeps doing Simran, then they overcome that hurdle, that obstacle as well, of being tight for money, not being able to pay bills, etc. Then the third type of obstacle Kal will place in front of the mind on this path is Kalesh, arguments, tension within the family, where everyone's arguing with each other, or there's tadebazi, where kids are on one side, parents are on one side, or mom and child are on one side, dad and child are on the other side, and it causes a lot of tension within families. That's the third type of obstacle. If you keep doing Simran, especially if the family sits together and does Simran, then that obstacle is easily overcome. The fourth final method by which Kal tries to stop the mind from reaching God, reaching Vaheguru Ji, is the Gandharv Nagari. Kal will make sure that the mind starts to focus in on the colors of the 5 elements, and it'll come into a situation, the mind will, where it enters a mirage. It'll think that I'm seeing Sachkhand. It'll think that I'm seeing sights of the Sunamandal. I'm seeing extraordinary things. But it'll all be a mirage, and it won't be real. The mind won't be able to differentiate between what's real and fake in that situation. That's the last resort that Kal has to stop the mind from reaching the truth. In that spot, sometimes people get a bit of powers as well. And then people start to try and use some powers, and those powers run away. And the path of the mind changes. It's very hard to get to the truth. So that's what you want to watch out for. As long as you keep doing Simran and you do Sangat, you can avoid these obstacles. You can conquer these obstacles. You can get over these hurdles very easily. Okay, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਗੁਰਮਤ ਦੇ ਰਸਤੇ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਜੇ ਸਰੀਰਕ ਤੇ ਮਾਨਸਿਕ ਦੁੱਖ ਆਏ ਔਰ ਦਵਾਈ ਨਾਲ ਫਰਕ ਨਾ ਪਵੇ ਔਰ ਦਵਾਈ ਤੇ ਭਰੋਸਾ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏ ਤਾਂ ਇਨਸਾਨ ਕੀ ਕਰੇ? Okay, so ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਵਾਲ ਹੈ similar ਹੈ to the one in English about ਰੋਗ. ਇਹਦਾ ਕਾਲ ਨਾ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਖੇਡ ਖੇਡਣੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ because the ਸਵਾਲ is in Punjabi, I'll answer in Punjabi first. ਇੱਦਾਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਅਭਿਆਸ ਕਰੋ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦਵਾਈ ਦਾ ਇਸਤੇਮਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਉਹ ਫਿਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮਨ ਆ ਉਹ ਫੁਰਨਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਰਹਿਤ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਬਲੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਫੁਰਨਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਰਹਿਤ ਹੋ ਕੇ, ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਰੀਰ 'ਤੇ ਵੀ ਪੋਜ਼ੀਟਿਵ ਅਸਰ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਆ ਅਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਦਵਾਈ ਆ ਉਹਦਾ ਵੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਫਿਰ ਫਰਕ ਪੈਣ ਲੱਗ ਪੈਂਦਾ। ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਵੀ ਕਰੀਏ ਨਾਲ ਦਵਾਈ ਵੀ ਲਈਏ। ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਗੁਰੂ ਹਰਿਰਾਏ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਦਵਾਈਖਾਨਾ ਵੀ ਖੋਲ੍ਹਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਦਵਾਈ ਦੇ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੀ ਮਰੀਜ਼ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਸੀ, ਅਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਅਭਿਆਸ ਕਰਨ ਵੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸਨ। ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਉਪਦੇਸ਼ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੀ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਗੁਰਮੁਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਦੋਨੋਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ। ਸੋ just to translate that answer in English, Guru Har Rai Sahib Ji, they had a dawai khana where they would give medicines, desi dawaiyan, herbal medicine to people that were sick that would come. But Maharaj would also tell them to do Simran. Doing Simran and taking medicine makes it easier for the medicine to work upon the body because the mind becomes thoughtless, becomes stronger, which gives a positive effect upon the body. And when we then take the medicine that's required, whoever's prescribed us medicine, then what happens is basically it's easier on our body to accept that medicine. Where it takes away from the peace of mind and the less peaceful the mind is, then it makes it harder. The more strong your mind is, the easier it is to overcome any obstacle in life. ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਇੰਨੀਆਂ ਹੀ ਬੇਨਤੀਆਂ ਸਨ। ਅੱਖਰਵਾਦ ਦਾ ਘਾਟਾ ਭੁੱਲ ਚੁੱਕ ਮਾਫ਼ ਕਰਨੇ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।